Didn't work, but it's not all the tricks up the sleeve, is it?
No.
Yeah, we'll get there. I don't know if you ever just wake up and you're like, I wonder why I was so sore. Then you think back to the day prior and you're like, that's why I'm sore. Yeah, I was pretty sore. After this, I was pretty sore. If you look behind me, what we got going on here, and this is actually pretty neat. This is actually a gigantic auger that goes in a manure spreader, and it's actually tied into the project that we're working on here. This is the auger that is in a Knight 8040 spreader. That gigantic gear that you see us pulling on with a skid loader, me hitting it with a sledgehammer and a jackhammer, and that project actually started about a year ago. Well, we're back at another adventure. Behind me, you can see my dad's in the skid loader there, and then behind me we have one of the big spreaders here that we spread with. And this gear is actually rusted to this shaft, and that's not really a big problem except for when the bushings go up behind it and you need to get this off. It's one of the few projects we've ever had that we actually walked away from.
We bought a secondhand electric jackhammer, and hopefully that'll be big enough to do the trick. R&D hasn't really approved this yet, and Human Resources definitely voted it down, but good ear protection, and she should hopefully knock it loose.
It's actually one of the few projects we actually walked away from. And what I mean by that is what we had going on here. Inside these two spreaders, when we're out spreading in fall, there's two augers. One's clockwise, the other runs counterclockwise. And over the course of time, there's just some wear components in there, primarily bushings that wear out, and you got to replace them. But to do it, you got to take these gears off. And we've pulled these gears before. We've had some fight us. It was nothing to always have to kind of heat them up with the torch. It was nothing. Usually my dad had a pretty good puller that would work. But this individual spreader truthfully was like the worst one we ever did. We've heard stories of guys cutting them off with torches. The downside is that gear's $1,500. Now, believe it or not, I have a $1,500 gear on order because I didn't think I was going to get it. I thought we were going to be torching this one off. But let me back up to last year. That was this year. Let me back up to last year. So last year, we knew the bushings were getting bad. What happens is when the bushings get bad, the sprockets kind of move and the chains kind of lose their alignment. You'll get a sprocket, farther forward, another one farther back, and eventually it starts either breaking the chains or popping the chains off. And not a big deal. It's a big inconvenience. It's nicer when it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, it's not the end of the world. And we knew this one was getting to that point. We could see the sprockets kind of separating, and we knew, hey, we had to start to address this thing. Last year, both me and my dad were like, all right, you're here, I'm here. We got a couple days. Let's go after this. Because we had tried before. We couldn't get it. We originally started with air hammer, and after that didn't work, we moved up to just trying to pop it off with a skid loader. After that didn't work, my dad actually had a good idea, and the idea was good, but it was kind of no avail. Sometimes with these sprockets, when you're trying to pull them off this way, believe it or not, if you push the sprocket in first, it kind of breaks it up. It kind of breaks some of the rust and scale that's in there apart, and then you get to go this way, then usually sometimes you can get it to go back. So that's what we were actually trying to do with the jackhammer, trying to jackhammer it forward, see if we could just get it to wiggle one way or another. Well, that didn't work. So then we threw science at it. All right. There is an old, you hear it a lot of times with old truck mechanics, there is an old combination of acetone and ATF. And I've had a number of guys tell me, oh, it works perfect. It'll break anything loose. Well, let's just say not everything goes as planned. So needless to say, the acetone ATF combination did not work. Then we actually had this wild idea. Me and my dad were sitting there just going, we use a lot of muriatic acid to clean different things up, and then we know it just annihilates rust. What if we just try to use muriatic acid on it? And so we both kind of agreed, hey, let's try it. And believe it or not, the muriatic actually worked really, really well. in between the gear and the splines, for the first time, you could actually see some space. We kind of knew that this was probably like our best bet. Believe it or not, after all of that, we still couldn't get it. So we just decided, hey, let's just run it. It worked last year, right? It should work this year, right? I know there's farmers out there that have said those same words. Well, some farmers were able to make it work. For us, it just never seems like it's quite like that. We got about 3/4 of the way through fall last year, and then, holy crap. I wasn't lying. I've never had one come out like this, but okay, you can see why this job sucks. But I don't think this is gonna be too bad to shovel. Leave it to me to be the optimist and the one shoveling. No, that's cool. I'm just glad you're here for moral support. Like, yeah, Eric, your day sucks. Yup, it does. But you're happy we're getting it. Yup, sounds like you. It does, doesn't it? Like, Eric, this really looks like it's horrible, but you're saying it's not so bad. Okay. But that's kind of the way we ended last year. We ended last year getting it shoveled out before the snow flew, and, well, there it sat till about a week ago. One of the things that was on the docket for repair was to go back after this spreader. And I remember watching my dad pull it up. He's like, hey, I think I'm gonna grab that spreader. And I'm like, yeah, we gotta do something with it. And, you know, after having a year's rest, the next morning, believe it or not, I kind of just woke up and was just like, you know, let's go throw down again. I'm a year older, I'm a year wiser, I hope. Maybe I got another year under the belt of good ideas. Let's go try some stuff. So we actually, when we first grabbed the spreader, we noticed that everything that was nice and shiny had rusted up. So we actually container and actually dumped more muriatic acid in it. Then I got that cleaned up and off. And I just sat there for about an hour with the torch, heating it up, and kind of in some ways heating it up slower. And then the whole mindset was I just wanted to let this thing cool gently. So that's what we started off doing. And then we put the puller on it, and I told my dad, because my dad wanted help on another project, and I'm like, just give me a little time here. Let me just see what I can do with this thing. And so he came over and started helping me. And we got the puller on it, and believe it or not, we were able to tighten down the puller and just start hitting it with a sledgehammer, and we got it to move. Didn't move much, but we had never gotten it to move prior to this. All right, I'm here with my dad, and wow, we were working on a project that a year ago we attempted, and
Kicked our butt.
I mean, we don't quit too easy, but this one forced us to quit.
Well, so the biggest reason we didn't just cut it off is that's a $1,400 plus gear.
Yep.
And so we just need to try.
Just admit it, we're just not quitters.
Some days we should be.
Oh, so it's taking a little bit of everything. Muriatic acid, we heated it up with the torch or with the rosebud, and we've just been swinging for the fences, literally, and we finally got it to move. We're making forward progress. We just about got it off, but wow, hasn't this one been a project.
Well, and if you had watched this in time lapse, we've been pulling on this for over an hour.
Yeah, we're 2-3 hours into it today already.
But it definitely is the furthest we've ever got.
Wow. Oh, we are there in the home stretch.
Yeah.
We never got it to budge. That was the only thing that gave us hope about an hour and a half ago. We actually seen the gear move for the first time ever. And that gave us a lot of hope. All right, here we go. The end's in sight.
Okay.
Hang on, I think I can just pull it. Think she'll sit?
Yep.
Let me set these down. Here we go. Wow. That should look way worse. Eventually we got it. I think all in all that day we had like 3 hours in it, but we got it off. And it was a pretty cool feeling. It is definitely one of those things when you just kind of know in the back of your mind, like every time you're driving down the driveway, like, okay, one day we got to address this spreader. And then sure enough, that day's come, you got it here in the yard, and then you're like, okay, now we got to attack this spreader. How are we going to do this? But then we got it apart, and it's just like, yes. So even though we had a huge victory by getting that gear off, we still had to get the auger out. So we get the auger out of the spreader, and we knew it had some wear on it, so actually my dad put it there earlier today, and I was actually welding it up. And so we're about ready to go back in. We got to get some bushings from the local store here in town, or we got to get some bushings from the manufacturer, and put it all together. But man, for about a day and a half, I was just super happy. Like, I was just one of those things where you're like, yes, we won. It's not better than us, you know, like sometimes you just have those projects that are just butt kickers, you know. I mean, they just are. And this one was one of those stretches because I knew we had a lot of force, a lot of heat, just a lot of everything. We still couldn't get it to budge. And, but eventually we did, and we overcame. And Oprah would be so proud. We set a goal, we worked hard, we achieved it. And hey, I got a gear off. All right. On to the next battle.